is day 23. Yeah, I'm 23 days in on this countdown. So 23 out of 55 videos. Yeah, this this is good. This is really good. I'm proud of myself. I'm very, very proud of myself. Um, so I don't know if you remember the last video. I was talking about how my mother was one of my heroes, my main hero, and how I watched her break a lot of barriers, especially in the 70s. That was really big because, excuse me, I'm still coughing a little bit, is much, much better, y'all. Um, so I, in the 70s, women still was fighting for a lot of equality, as we still are today, but not like it was for my mother, especially with her being a single mother in the 70s. First of all, that was taboo in the black community, in the Holiness Church. Yeah. I watched her break so many barriers, and it was very instrumental and very good for me to see that as a child because it helped me to be able to do the same thing even before I became an adult. I broke a lot of my own barriers, not just those that I was living in during that time, but I broke a lot of my own barriers. One of the things I broke out of was my mindset, and it some of it was shaped from the culture that I was being raised in and the subculture that I was raised in. And there were some things that I internalized that became my own philosophy as a child and as a teen and as a young adult. And that's where most of our philosophies come from. We internalize a lot that we experienced in life or that we've observed in life. And that becomes our way of thinking, our belief system. And it really didn't have a lot to do with the religion that we practiced when I was in her care. It didn't really have a lot to do with that. It had more to do with my mindset and breaking my own barriers. One of the barriers was um, my idea of how a female should be or behave. There was no one who could tell me how I was supposed to be. Even when I was in elementary school, I remember, oh my goodness, this is so funny. Well, at least to me. Um, so you've never, ever, ever, ever heard of a female pope. Now you have. So, in my head and in my role play as a child, I became the first black female pope. Nobody could tell me that I couldn't do that. So, this coincides also with the subculture of the religion that I practiced as a child growing up in the Pentecostal Holiness Church, um, and particularly Kojic, the Church of God in Christ. There were no women preachers. That just was not a thing. That was very taboo. It was not supposed to happen. Nowadays, it's different. You have them as elders, because I remember very, very young, the highest rank I remember them having, other than one of the mothers of the Mother's Board, which is really up there, a deaconess, um, or a missionary. Um, the prayer person. Or what else? It's one more thing. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, and then as I became a teen, then they started having them as evangelists. You know, that really was a big thing. So now you a female preacher, but you still couldn't pastor. And I remember, and it's not just my biological mother. I watched my stepmother break barriers too, because she was in the church with us, and she and daddy left. I was in my early 20s. And I know this is a sidebar. I haven't done that in a while, so here's what. I watched. She knew that's what she wanted to do and what she was supposed to do, and what her role was in that capacity. So she needed to break away. And I watched her and daddy go through that process of breaking from Church of God in Christ and start their own ministry. And I was there in the early parts of it. I remember I remember them going and looking and searching for a building and all of that stuff. But I watched them go through that. And from them, for them to break from the church, and then my stepmother be the pastor, not my father. That was another barrier broken, because that just was not supposed to happen. So I had two really great examples of knowing who you are, knowing why you're here and what you're supposed to do, and not allowing people to dictate to you how you should be doing that. You know, it's not going to look like it's supposed to look to anybody, because, first of all, they weren't the ones sent here to do it. So it does not matter who they think is talking to them, telling them what you should do and how you should do it. The only person who really knows that is you. And it takes you to get that done. How you're wired, how you think, how you process. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting advice and soliciting support and getting these things done. But there are people outside of who you are who feel like it's them and God, who only knows what you're supposed to be doing and how you should do it. Yeah. A lot of people have been trying to tell me that my entire life, and that just didn't work. It didn't work. It still doesn't work. It still does not work to this day. I've had two really, and I still have two really good examples in my life of women who they know what they're supposed to do. They did. They just, my mother and my stepmom. That's it. I don't need anybody else to show me. Just, if I never get anyone else in my life to show me, like, so what? You're a woman, and as a matter of fact, you're a Black woman, and you can get this done. My mom and my stepmom, both my moms, excellent choice. I could not have asked for better. I really could not. So one of the barriers, like I said, my mindset. My mindset, as I grew and evolved, my mindset changed a lot on me. Yes, there were some negatives as I aged, because, peer pressure. When you're a teen, your hips are not shaped a certain way. Your legs are not shaped a certain way. Your hair is not a certain texture. Your skin is not a certain shade or tone. Your voice is not as smooth as someone else's, you know? But beyond all of that, I broke a lot of barriers, and my mindset was one of them. And I struggled through each one because I internalized a lot. I did. I internalized a lot. I was always thinking, I think so much. Sometimes if I don't watch myself, I don't do it now. I noticed that as I've been working on my healing journey, um, I don't overthink like I used to. I really, really used to struggle with this. And it's because of my negative internalization towards myself, that self negative talk that I had that no one gave me. These were just my own thoughts. And then there were some times where people would actually start saying some of the things that I thought. But in reality, when I go back and reflect on them, I said those things to myself first. Another
So,
thing that I
yeah.
broke through was not doing or becoming what people think I should do or become. I remember growing up. I remember saying that I used to want to be a nurse. I remember saying I wanted to be a school teacher. I remember saying a lot of things. But I also remember how I used to see a lot of these things in my family. They were either preachers, teachers, um, someone who worked in the healthcare industry. And so quite naturally, that's what I was going to choose, as a child. And you sometimes you would change your mind from then to adulthood, what it is you really want to do. Also, in the 70s, growing up, you didn't really see a lot of Black women in a lot of different roles, except in those areas. They were either housewives, teachers, cooks, and any of the other things that I named before. It was rare that you saw a female minister. Um, Nowadays, female ministers are all over the place, all over the place. But it took a lot of women in the earlier years to be the pioneers to set the pace of you can't tell us who we cannot be. This is our life, this is our moment, and we know we're here to do this, and this is what we're going to do. I remember life like that, and I remember, and I'm knowing life like it is for me now. I I did nursing. I did that for nearly 40 years. I'm still teaching and I'm about to phase that out. That's nearly 30 years of doing that. It may be 30 or more by now. I can't remember. I've been doing it so long. So I've done that. And now I'm focusing on just being well, not just being, but expanding on me as business owner and operator. Um, I was more in the entrepreneur status, and as I expand, that's not what I want. There's a difference between entrepreneur, being that, and being a business owner and operator. I prefer the latter. That's just what I prefer, because the dynamic, the dynamic is different for the two, and how I've evolved, especially healing from abuse and healing from childhood traumas. Um, this is just a better fit for me. It really is. It's just a better fit for me. I am the first, well, I'm the first grandchild, I'm the first child and first grandchild in my family. So those are barriers that I broke. Because, of course, everybody, especially during my time, looking for a son first. You know what? That's almost another video. But anyway, I'm going to do a little snippet here. So, sidebar. I was supposed to be a boy. Yeah. My parents did not have my name chosen. I was supposed to have been named after my father, and I was supposed to have been the third. I was supposed to have been Daniel the third. And I came out female, so they had to really change my name. They were not prepared. So yeah, that's another barrier I broke. And I broke another one when it came to, okay, it is common for females, especially the oldest one, to protect her younger siblings and cousins and other children of the neighborhood and things like that. I was the first, my size, to come up against the older kids. Oh my gosh, y'all, I was so skinny. To give you an idea, when I graduated high school, I was only 87 pounds. Can you imagine me even younger? So of course I'm much, much smaller and much, much thinner. And the bullies, they would not even pick on me. They would pick on the other kids in the neighborhood. And I was their protector. And the kids that I were protecting were bigger than me, but they weren't fighters. I was a fighter. I fought through a lot of things. I was very respectful. But when I saw another adult being disrespected, especially if it was a female, it was just something just would rouse up in me, and I would just want to fight. It's just like, not doing this, that's just how I was. Still am. It took some time for me to get back to that. It's not like I ever stopped. The dynamic of it is a lot different, especially with me healing from my first exposure to Black women being mistreated. I've broken quite a few barriers. I've done everything I wanted to do. I've had 3 careers already, and I'm embarking on a 4th one right now, and I'm not even 55, and I'm working on my 4th career. But the 4th career does involve with me, with my business and going from entrepreneurship to business owner and operator. It's a beautiful marriage, the way everything is coming together. It really is. It's a beautiful marriage, and it will benefit those that I support a lot more with the way things are changing. And so I am very happy. I'm proud of the way things are going. I'm even proud of the timing, because the person I was before, working on healing from all these other things, from childhood to now, I would have rushed through a lot of things. I tend to overthink things, but I would tend to be very impulsive on a lot of things too. I'm more strategic now. I've always been very strategic, but I'm strategic even more so now. I have different methods for how I go about things now, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. One of the other barriers that church, my view on church, I think, now this is just me, and I don't care who thinks anything else. Church and science, to me, for me, go hand in hand. From my observation and from my experience, I've watched how the two coupling is more beneficial for people I support as they heal than if it's just church. or if it's just science. It takes a little bit of both. You have to find harmony with whatever you're dealing with and whatever it is your philosophy is, or your personal belief system and science. It takes a little bit of all of those things to harmonize, like a soprano and alto and tenor. When they put those different things together and they're singing the same song, they deliver it their part a little bit differently, but the sound, the frequency that happens when you find your part and you're harmonizing, things just work together so much better, which is where my life is going now. I'm more in harmony. I'm not balancing. I'm balancing a lot less and I'm harmonizing a lot more. A lot of people focus on balancing. That's another barrier. Breaking the barrier of always finding the balance, always finding the balance. And there's nothing wrong with finding the balance. But there are some parts of your life where balancing, no. Trying to balance, sometimes you get to that point where you overthink a lot and you get stuck on the, what do you call it? The imposter syndrome. And you get stuck in a rut where just you just don't move from where you are. You can't evolve and move forward. Sometimes you can't even move back. You just in a limbo, and that's not good. Because a lot of times what happens is most things that don't move start dying, and that's no place to be. When you find harmony, when you harmonize, nothing stops. Everything continues blending and raising the frequency. That's just how it is with harmony. With balancing, it's just a little bit of here, a little bit of there. Harmonizing, everything is incorporating and working together. That's the difference, and that's where my life is. That's the difference of someone who can withstand all of the different trials and tribulations that come in their life and in your life. Because some people, they're good support, but when you are experiencing your traumas, they can't help you. Because if they haven't dealt with their own, they have nothing to give you. And I am so glad that when I got out of a life of abuse, that I began to work on that immediately, because I was like, okay, I've seen everybody else go through this. And now I have gotten to the point where I am dealing with this. I don't want to ever have to do this anymore. I'm not dealing with this anymore. That was another barrier, because I made up in my mind, this will never happen again. And I did not care what it took for me to get out of that loop. I needed to get out of that loop. So that's where I broke the barrier on that. And my aunt, she said to me this summer during the family reunion, she said, you've always been the first with everything. Any and everything that the others do, you've always been the first. And I never thought about that. I never ever thought about that. Yes, it makes sense because I'm the oldest, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I would be the pioneer in all of these things, because I've seen in a lot of other situations where the eldest sibling is not the one who's the first one to take that stride. I've seen it where it's the youngest. I've seen it where it's the middle one. I've seen it where it's someone else in the family who's not even a part of that little particular unit, who they see and it was like, you know what, I need to do this too. How can I do this too? And so, yeah, she helped point that out. And I went home and I did some more reflecting, and I saw where she was right. So not allowing abuse to bog me down. I just no. I no. Mm-mm. I was determined that I was going to break this cycle. And I also knew that as I did this, it was setting the pace for whoever wanted to come behind me to do the same thing. It didn't matter if they was experiencing it in their current situations, their relationships, being healed from what they was exposed to in the past. That was important. That's very important to me. Very, very important to me because as my generation heals from it, the generations behind us, it makes life so much sweeter for them because as especially as blacks, um, African Americans, we oh my goodness, that's another thing. That's just my philosophy. But anyway, um, as as we break these things, it's so important for them because if we do not leave a legacy behind, and legacy does not always mean wealth, as in terms of currency, as in terms of finances. Sometimes that currency looks like healing. Sometimes that currency looks like self esteem built up. Sometimes that currency looks like evolution and moving on and doing things better, not harder, and doing things to where life is a lot better for the next ones behind you, So those were some areas that where I broke some barriers. Now, codependency is the biggest one for me. It is the biggest one. And especially as a black woman, just black people, period. And I know we're not the only ones who deal with codependency, but because of everything that we struggle through, it has been the hardest for us because for so long we were we made it normal that this is the way life is for us. No, it does not have to be that way. You can want it and desire it all you want to, but until you get to the point where your actions show that you are evolving and this is how this is going to be, it's not going to happen. It's just not. And if you want it to happen, you have to do it. This is how you break those barriers in your life, um, by not allowing certain things and certain normalized things that has desensitized you to who you really are. You know, once you get over those things and how other people feel about them and who may be hurt because you've made a decision better for you, and your children if you have them, once you get over that, you've already cracked it. It's already cracked. So now,
Yeah.
how it has affected me breaking all these barriers, it gives me a reason to smile more upon myself because, as I said earlier, this is my way of leaving a legacy behind my younger siblings, my younger relatives, and the children and the other people in my community. It's saying like, just we don't have to accept this. This is if we're gonna live this life, let's enjoy it. Let's make an impact. Not let's just not wait for someone to impact us. Let's be an impact on someone else. The question is, how are you going to impact them? And you have to impact yourself first in order to do that for someone else. So, yeah, I'm proud of myself.